Geocachamaniacs.
Geo Gearheads.
Welcome to Geo Gearheads. Wow, I'm tripping over my tongue already. Welcome to Geo Gearheads episode 380. We're going to be talking about seasonal maintenance tonight. And my co-host, who's normally here and very talkative with, especially with bad jokes, seems to have some like digital laryngitis. So hopefully he'll be able to join us in a little bit. But we've got a couple of great guests to talk with us tonight. We've got Lookout Lisa. And
hey everybody,
Kid Vegas. Welcome, Kid Vegas 19. Sorry, I almost dropped the numbers. Eesh.
I know. Get those other 18 in there. Wow.
Thanks so much for being on. Before we get into the meat of tonight's conversation, why don't you quickly tell us about both Cache Advanced and Compass Creek Designs?
Sure. Well, Cache Advanced is a geocaching gear company. We've been around since 2005. And we supply all the gear and inspiration you need for fun and adventure.
And then Compass Creek was developed or purchased to supplement that business. But a lot of cachers want to make coins or trackables of their own, and just don't know how. And then that's where we step in and help guide them along the way to get what they want: coins, pins, medallions, things of that nature.
And a lot of cachers actually know exactly what they want, which even makes it easier for us to provide them with the coins. And we do a lot of coins for mega events and geotours as well.
And you did the pins that we took for my wife and I to Disney World for our honeymoon.
Right.
Yeah, we've been curious how that went.
They went very well. We were just passing them out to anyone who seemed interested. And they loved it. We had some very, very, very excited cast members. They thought it was extremely cool.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, we've been doing a lot more business with Compass Creek Designs that's not geocaching related, actually, for producing pins and museum replicas and really interesting things. So cool. I'm glad your pins worked out well. They were really cute.
Well, now you really got my interest piqued with the museum replicas, but we can't talk about that right now because we're geocaching stuff.
Yes.
So let's get into seasonal maintenance. And one of the reasons that Chris was really excited to get you guys on was that you kind of started the business with some maintenance kits.
We did. Back, like I said, in 2005, when I started the business, it was just an idea that I had. I was looking for something to do to fill my time. I was finally done with business school and was working full time. I had all this extra time since I was not in school anymore, but I didn't want to give up my geocaching time. So I came up with the idea of producing a maintenance kit for geocaching. And I did some research. Nobody else was doing it. Took it to our local SCORE counselors, had a meeting with one of the local SCORE counselors. They're generally retired business people that help you, put together your business plans and such. And they loved the idea. They said, run with it. So I did more research and figured out what would be good in a maintenance kit. What would I want to have in my back pocket if I came across a cache that needed some help. And we came up with Dr. B's Cache Repair Kit.
Which I think I have a couple of them laying around, but I couldn't honestly tell you where they are anymore.
Okay.
But they were handy little bags for a long time, and I don't carry the go bag so much anymore, which is kind of the core of the problem.
Well, caching has changed.
Yeah, it has.
So the kit changed.
And the kit changed as well. The original kit was really a first aid kit for Tupperware containers and larger caches. Now it's become more of just a maintenance kit as well for, replacing logs, baggies, most caches, extra pens, pencil sharpener. Caches have gotten smaller and much easier to take care of.
Yeah. And it really does depend regionally too. Down here, it's mostly the paint by numbers, which are, these little plastic containers that used to do as the kids and whatnot. And it's a big thing around here because we can get them cheap They throw like a little magnet in it, glue that in with Gorilla Glue, and it makes a perfect micro container. They're cheap. They're easy to replace if you need to. And they get them all over the place, and you'll find them at some of the events. There's probably literally hundreds of them that have been placed for events like the New Year's Day, where there's like 400, 500, 600 caches published. So we see tons of those, and we just tend to carry around some log sheets that will fit into that size container. But we go a little bit south, and they're not as available. So we see a lot more of the blinkies. That's a big one that still seems to be hanging in there. And then I found a few different regional containers, but the one that seems to be the most popular for a little bit bigger one are where they take either the 2-liter lids and glue them together to make a cache container.
Yeah.
Or like the Gatorade sports drink kind of bottles. So those are kind of nice because they're bigger. But you kind of get a feel as you go caching for what the majority of the caches are in your area and what kind of maintenance kits you might need. Right.
Yeah, I remember when I was up at the Midwest Geobash and the Cache Bash Dash. No, the one in
you're mixing events.
Yeah, I am mixing events.
The
$10,000.
We're talking about the West Bend $10,000 Cache Bash.
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah, it's been some years since I've been there, but when we were there, I remember seeing a lot of petlings or baby pop bottles. Preforms is another term.
Preforms,
for them. Yeah, and that seemed very regional. They were really popular at that time, and they're pretty popular around here as well too.
And then just to explain why she's mixing up events and to get a shameless plug in September in Long Beach, Washington is the major event Cache Dash Splash, if anybody's interested.
Yeah.
I think I might have heard about that on another podcast where the host has recently dropped off of this show.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really fun event too. So
it does sound like it's one of those ones that were a little bit more easily accessible to the area. I would have to go to.
Yeah, it takes us 9 hours to drive there, even though it's still in our state.
Yeah, but I think that's about what it takes for me to get to the West Bend Cache Bash. Bend $10,000 Cache Bash.
Wow.
Yes, I do.
Hours.
Yeah.
Well, we just call it West Bend, so
Okay.
It's an amazing event that I would love to hit every year.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit too far a drive, and tends to cost money because it's at least like a 3-night stay.
Yeah.
So you tend not to do it so much.
Yeah, I haven't been back since I was there the first time, but I stayed a week and I had a blast when I was there.
And you probably didn't even get like a tenth of the caches knocked out.
No, not even.
It is an amazing event, and it gets bigger and bigger every year. And part of the problem is they keep spreading it out to wider and wider regions because they need more and more land to place caches.
Right. That's a challenge. We bump into that every year too with our challenges that we do here.
Yeah, which makes it nice because there's all that extra caching for people to do, but it also kind of is challenging because now people have to go further away and don't necessarily have as much time to hit as many of the caches or partake in as much of the event.
Right.
Which is totally off the subject of cache maintenance, though.
Well, actually, I was just thinking about kind of drawing that back around.
Oh, okay, please.
Yeah. One thing about, caches that have been out for a while, and a part of maintenance is maybe they need to be archived. If it's just a regular cache that, it is fun to find, but not one of those that's going to be gathering, 90% favorite points. If a lot of cachers in the area have found it, maybe it's time to archive that one and let it go to open up the area for other cachers.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yeah, so I have it's not quite an algorithm, but I call it that because it makes me, seem smart. But at the 10-year anniversary of my hides, I look to see what the trend is. And if it hasn't been found, then I go ahead and archive it. My first cache was 2009. So, it's not like I'm archiving this gem everybody needs to get, to fill a grid or a
Or
challenge.
Jasmer or something. Yeah.
And then it opens up the area either for another one of my caches or for somebody else.
Mhm.
So that I consider that part of maintenance as well.
Which
Absolutely.
brings up an excellent point of, you should take a look at the significance of the cache. It was something we talked about on a previous show with the heritage caches is what he was calling them, which apparently is still raising some points and some interest. I have to read that email and we'll probably do that later. But in any case, if you do have a cache that's notable for some reason, whether it's a unique DT rating, whether it's a unique time placed, maybe it has a ton of favorite points, then you probably do want to take care of that cache and keep it going. Otherwise, archive it and open it up for others if it isn't getting the action that it had been seeing. If you're getting too many maintenance, did not find logs, that kind of stuff, open it up for someone else. And, especially if you've got these events with all of these hundreds of people coming, it's a great time to go and place a new cache in a nearby location to support that event as well. Or just, let the event organizers know and give it to them and tell them, hey, I'll archive this cache for you if you'd like, just let me know.
That's exactly what happened just last week for us. We had a cacher reach out to our local group that's doing the Arspel Cache Challenge coming up this summer. And they're having a challenge with one of their caches, and they thought it would be a good fit for where the location was. And we went ahead and started a cache page right up to hold the location, and then she archived her cache. So that kept it within our, so nobody else can hide a cache right there as well until we're ready.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about that process so that people understand how it works and hopefully won't get caught. Is what we're talking about. The owner of that cache cannot archive the cache right away. They need to keep that there to hold the place. Whoever wants to hide the new cache there creates the cache listing, but doesn't publish it.
Right.
So that it doesn't have a problem. A lot of people that do these events will actually do the whole email the list to the reviewer and say, hey, all of these need to be done. The reviewer typically will tell you, okay, so mark them as publish, put the reviewer notes in that this is going to replace such and such cache.
Yeah.
And then they'll go through, make sure that everything's good, and then turn off the review flag. And then you have to go back and hit publish later.
Yep.
So that basically the whole thing there is your new cache can't be published until this other one is archived. And you have to put in that new listing to hold that location. So you have to have a listing there to hold it. And the way that it typically works is the oldest listing gets the position.
That's what I understand too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And emailing the reviewer that, so-and-so is releasing this location will give you some preference if someone has a cache listed there that, I've heard that this has happened. I haven't actually seen it firsthand, but I've heard of people who have placed cache listings at a given location because they want that spot for some reason. But if you're emailing the reviewer, posting that note in there that so-and-so is releasing this location to you, and if it's like for an event, that will kind of supersede any claim that someone else has to it.
Okay.
But not necessarily.
Yeah. I hadn't even considered that maybe somebody else has a cache page right up in, the same location.
Yeah. The person that was telling me about this called it cache squatting.
Yeah.
And in this case, I believe they had a person who had gone and like peppered a park where they had figured out every location that they could put a cache to maximize that park because they really wanted to have the whole park. So they did that well before the park had any vacancies in hopes that someone would go and archive the caches in that park and they could have the whole park.
Yeah. We have a certain cacher here in our area that does that
I think it was actually in your area.
Yeah.
It's probably the same individual.
It could be. Yeah. I'm not going to name names.
So I wonder if we can hear Chris now. I bet you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
No, he's still got digital laryngitis. Darn Googles. All right.
I was feeling like Teller of Penn and
So
Teller.
let's talk again about what you should do as the cache owner to maintain the cache. And let's actually kind of talk about the schedule, because we called this the seasonal maintenance. And a lot of that goes back to, typically they tell you, you should check your cache once a season, but do you have a algorithm, as you're calling it, JD, for figuring out how frequently you really should check on your caches?
I personally, what I do is I monitor the logs. Okay. When I lived actually physically closer to my hides, it was easier to go physically check on them. And I don't now. Not that it's hundreds and hundreds of miles, but
across town.
It can seem like it is that far.
Yeah.
And so I monitor I attempt to monitor the log entries very closely. And I think part of maintenance is actually disabling your listing correctly and timely. Okay. So I have a did not find, took me 40 minutes, and it should take maybe 3. Yet the person has 9 finds listed. Okay. I let it slide. But if the next 1 or 2 is a little more seasoned cacher and doesn't find it, then I'll go ahead and disable it and then go check it out. Okay. And then the other part of maintenance I consider, while it's disabled, I found it's best to, if you're not going to get to it right away, periodically post a little update saying, hey, I'm waiing for the snow to go away. I'll get to it. Whatever it is.
Zone declared.
Just under the guise of informing other geocachers, but really you're keeping the reviewer at bay. Our reviewers at bay.
Yeah.
We're lucky because we live in an area where the reviewers do a lot of house cleaning. I'm sort of hoping it's the same, or imagining it's the same everywhere. But they have their protocol, and at the end of their protocol, if you haven't communicated with them, then your listing's archived. And I think that's a good thing. And I have experience, as long as I communicate with them, it never comes to that. I may never actually write them an email, but just my posting, here's what I'm doing with this.
Yeah, and that is a very regional thing. Yeah, it depends a lot on your reviewers and how they tend to work. But it is up to those reviewers as to how they're going to do that. But they should be going through and looking at those needs maintenance and keep going.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So and so I imagine, there's many different ways to play this game. Yeah. So there's many different ways to maintenance your caches. My mode is to monitor logs. There's people, their mode is to first DNF as archive, done with it. Whether the DNF is true or not. Other people, their mode is to, once, twice, 3 times a year, physically check each and every one of them. Those are the people because they've hidden their caches in cool places and you want to go there anyway. So, just.
Yeah,
I used to try to do the winter and the spring maintenance. So, you'd go out just before, like fall time, just before, make sure that the cache is still going to be watertight and doesn't have any damage. And again, this is really for like those older, what's it called? The like lock and lock Tupperware kind of containers, because they're the ones that out here we had the most damage. And then after the fall, or after the winter, rather, you get out there, it starts warming up and you do the same kind of thing. But typically, I just go and look for the logs to tell me when I'm doing it. I've heard from other people, though, that their times are like just before summer. So like mid spring, late spring, they'll go out, keep an eye on them or check them out. And, you know, when it's end of the summer season, they go back out and do it again because that's their worst season when they're dealing with the heavy heat and sun, and sometimes it will be rain or whatnot because that's their rainy season. So it really depends, I think, on where you are, weather-wise, as to what you should be doing.
And if you have a large event, you know, if you're going to have a cash machine or some sort of mega event coming,
it's poor Chris with the digital laryngitis.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're fine. No,
we can hear you.
You're fine.
Oh, you guys can hear him?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so we're having that Google problem again. Where I can't hear him, but you guys can.
Yeah, I can hear
and that's
him.
really too bad because what he said was probably the most profound thing he's ever said on your show.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is actually hop off for a moment here and jump back on. Chris, say whatever you were about to say, and I'm going to come right back.
And I agree with Chris. The best way that I've noticed of getting a bunch of cash as maintenance is have the cash machine coming up in that area.
They get cleaned up. Yeah.
They get cleaned up quick, don't they?
Yeah.
One other thing to remember as a casher, as a finder, it's important that you put the condition of the container and log in your log. So, you know, I make sure that I always put, you know, hey, the container and log were in good shape. Both were dry. Out here, that's an important thing. You know, logs just don't stay dry very long.
Right.
But, you know, put it in there if the log is full, if the log is damp. You know, you don't have to do a needs maintenance or a needs archived. You just have to say in the log, hey, you know, the log was getting full. Even if you don't have one with you, it helps the cache owner get that visual in their head of, you know, what the condition of their cache is in.
Right. Well, yeah, that's a good point too. In that I've had a lot of the caches where I've even been carrying the supplies, but I don't have the right supplies for that type of cache.
Yeah. So, you know, if you can't make replace a log or something, absolutely put it in the notes. But yeah, I mean, those kind of escalate the steps up by doing a needs maintenance because it does put that attribute actually on the cache. And then as well as the needs archived, really reserve that. That's kind of a nuclear decision.
I haven't done a needs archive yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have or not.
Yeah. To me, that seems, you know, who made you God? And,
well, you know, sometimes the cacher is not playing anymore, and they'll never come back. They've moved away or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And that cache is languishing and in trouble. You know, it's become a community effort to try to take care of it. It needs to go away and free up the space, like I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, there is
exactly.
Yep.
And you know, if it's one of those important caches, you know, it fills a fizzy grid. It's you know, then maybe, as you mentioned, Lisa, it becomes a community effort.
Right.
You know, hey, we want to go out and, you know, take care of this. You can't really do much to the listing. You know, you have to have an active owner in order to start an adoption process.
Right.
But you can put a note in the log that, hey, I am taking care of this cache. Let me know if anything's going wrong. This is an important one that I want to see keep going.
Yeah. And I imagine every community has this scenario, but 3-4 years ago, beloved cacher passed, very prolific in the hides, and the community just split up the maintenance.
Yeah, I think we actually even had an event to, you know, figure out who's going to take care of which one of his hides. Luckily, one of his family members was still able to access his account.
Okay,
good. Things were able to be adopted out, and some were let go.
I wonder if that's something that, in a situation where HQ knows that a cacher has passed, that they'll allow adoption.
I
don't believe so at this point. But
I think you're right. Yeah.
Maybe with, you know, with a special ask, they might, but.
Well, again, that's something we talked about with the Heritage Cache show. And apparently when you had talked to Groundspeak, geocaching.com, it was something that they kind of recognized they need to address. But right now, as I recall, you have to be able to actually adopt it, you know, from the account, because they have no way to verify ownership outside of that.
Right. I mean, would you have
Yeah,
to
that
like
makes sense.
supply a death certificate? Maybe some, because I've seen it before. People try to gain control of other people's caches.
Absolutely. And you have all kinds of
Mhm.
malicious activity, but even
Yes.
just how do they know that that account is the right one for that death certificate?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
See, I
Yeah.
wasn't thinking of nefarious means. I was trying to be helpful, but you're
good.
exactly right. It's
Uh,
reasons like this that society's in the situation it's in. Now, let's not go down that path.
Yeah, this is why we can't have these things.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Starcasher in the chat says that the rubber O-rings on Bisons and Nanos here in Toledo need to be replaced every 1 to 1.5 years, 2 at most.
Yeah.
So there's another.
Do you have any experience with that?
I do have
Oh.
experience with that. Actually, those O-rings in the original Bisons made by Bison Designs, I was able to purchase them in bulk from Bison, and they were included in our first Dr. B's cash repair kit. We don't include them anymore.
Funny thing, I was just going to ask, where could you get those O-rings?
Actually, today, your best bet would be Home Depot.
Oh, really?
I've
Yeah.
been told that several times that people just run around and grab there's 3 different sizes.
Yeah.
And they carry them with them all the time, just in a little baggie in their pocket.
Mm-hmm. Well, so many of the Bison containers are not really made by Bison anymore.
Right.
And so they're not going to be the same standard size. So,
Well, I think even Bison has 2 or maybe more sizes, but there's the 2 sizes that you'll typically see.
Yeah.
So it's not even the one size Bison tube that it used to be. I know there's a bigger one that I've been seeing occasionally that's actually made by Bison.
yeah. Hang on, I'll get some. I've got some
What's funny
samples.
is
Excellent.
if you use the Bison tube for what it was designed to be used for, which was a pill carrier,
Mm-hmm.
that tube lasts forever.
Right.
And the O-ring should last forever because, you keep it in your pocket or on your keychain.
Keychain, yeah.
And it's safe in a purse or pocket. It's not sitting out in the elements.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
I was going to refer to that as well because it, again, is very dependent on your cache location. In those dry, hot locations, I've heard those O-rings go bad in a matter of months.
Yeah, they sure can, especially if they're exposed to the sun.
Oh, yeah,
So-
and that makes it even worse.
Yeah, here's one size.
down.
Which is the one that most of us are most familiar with.
Yeah.
That they hide in cedar bushes. Yes.
Yes.
Junipers.
Pull back a little bit. Can you focus on that?
Yep,
Or-
we can see that nicely.
Yeah, so that's a slightly different size diameter.
And a little bit longer. You could almost
Yes.
get a small pencil in there.
Almost.
Small pencil.
Yeah, if you chopped it off a little bit. Yeah. And then this
There you go.
fat one.
See,
as
and that's I think what I've been seeing more of lately. And they like to say just it's a pill holder to make it seem a lot smaller.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of pills.
Yeah.
And when you start looking at the tree, going, where could this be? You're focusing for those little tiny, containers.
Mhm.
And when you finally see that, it smacks you in the face, and you're going, "That's not what I was looking for at all. How did I
That's
miss
so
that?"
You can thank the pharmaceutical industry for the larger containers
that's
we have
right.
now.
Well, that's for
Probably.
the horses.
The horse pills. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Daryl, you were asking earlier about kind of a schedule for maintenance.
Yes.
And one thing we were talking about earlier with a needs maintenance attribute that goes on a cache if somebody adds that to their log.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I actually run a pocket query on my own caches that have that attribute on them. And I call that my needs maintenance pocket
You're
query.
telling me this now?
Yeah. And I have
That's
it
a
set up.
brilliant idea.
Yeah. And
It
I have
is a
that
great
set
idea.
to come in on Fridays. So on the weekend, then I'll know which of my caches have that attribute, and I can see if it actually is, like what JD was saying earlier. Is it a newbie that doesn't really know what they're doing? Is it a difficult find, or are more experienced cachers really having a problem with it? If so, then I know that one needs to be first disabled, and then I need to go out and do maintenance on it.
Now, Lisa, I don't know this answer to this question, so thus I'm asking.
Sure.
If there are no caches in the pocket query, does it still run on a weekly basis?
Yes, it runs, and I get an email saying that my pocket query returned 0
Okay.
results.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, the other thing for people who actually do use the website, not the apps, and actually go back and look, is with an update a couple of years ago, I think, if you go to your hide page, it actually has at the very top any of your needs maintenance. So if you're a regular user of the website, which, let's face it, almost no one listening to the show probably is, because we're the more advanced cachers who spend most of the time in the apps, whether it be
So
like
you're telling me
GSAC
there's a
project.
website?
There is,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Ads.
Yeah, you might remember it from about 15, almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
So I got you both covered because I use my phone to access the website. So there you go.
I've done that too.
Yeah. But I didn't know that the mobile responsive version actually did that, because I thought I had tried that, and it doesn't show the ones with the maintenance logs at the top like it does on the desktop site.
I want to say when I say request the desktop site, it did.
Yeah, as long as you're on the desktop site, but I don't think the mobile site does it. And that's just a good tip in general. Is there are some things that are missing from the mobile site, including like links. I can't get to the events page, for instance, from the mobile site.
Okay.
Although they might have fixed that by now, and I just haven't checked recently. But yeah, if you go to the request desktop site, you will get most of those links, and you can actually do it. And the nice thing is, every so often it jumps back to the mobile responsive after I click the link that was missing.
Oh,
so I'm checking here because I do have the website open on my phone at the moment, and I can, click my profile, go and see the entire list of my hides. So,
but
that would show you
have a maintenance flag on any of your caches.
No, but I can see the detail of my caches.
Yeah.
So if it had a maintenance flag, I could see that.
I like that little warning they put at the top too. It's just so it's almost Canadian polite. Oh, there may be something wrong with one of your caches. You should check it out.
Yeah, I got tired of. I knew the cache had been replaced by someone else, and I had a maintenance flag on it. But every time, because I wanted to go back out and actually replace a cache, but just got busy, and it's like it's there. Someone replaced it. I just want to replace it with the correct container rather than the impromptu funny container that they placed in its
Dare
spot.
We say throwdown? Yes.
No. It was actually a good container from what I've heard. Okay. I have to go back and pick that up because I did archive the cache because I got tired of every month when I listed the event getting notified. You may have a problem with this cache.
Oh, yeah. That's actually a nice feature too that they have added.
It is an excellent feature.
Yeah. You might want to fix these before you go and hide more, which it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. However, it was kind of a reminder to me as well that I had obviously let this cache go too long. Even though it's there, if I'm not going to be able to take care of it right now, I'm probably not going to get it in a timely manner and just let someone else take advantage of it. And again, the logs that started to diminish on it.
Yeah. And I have that going sort of with a particular hide of mine that was part of our Star Geo Tour. It was originally hidden in a really not a good place. And it turned out our faith in people was not redeemed, and it wasn't a good place. And so I had to archive it. And unfortunately, what it was trying to point out, there was not a place to hide it except for another cache that was on the year prior Geo Coin Challenge. And so we need permission to do that. And so it's been this long, arduous task of trying to get this arranged. And my local audience is saying, this has been like 9 months, people. Do you really care? Well, yeah, we're trying. It's just not being fast. So
that's an excellent consideration that we hadn't probably thought of before, was if you're in those official geo tours, there are added complexities to maintenance.
Oh
Yep.
boy, yes, yeah. Especially now that they've added.
Even the unofficial GeoCoin challenges. There's added complexities.
Yeah. If you require so many caches to finish your challenge or your geo tour, and you can't do it because the cache is missing, what do you do?
And with geo tours now with the souvenir, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And if you have a geo tour, the souvenir can only be attained if you find every geocache in that tour.
Yeah.
Regardless of the tour itself requires you to find them all to get whatever reward.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and one goes missing and it's going to take a while to replace.
And you're a tourist
And you're
traveling
a tourist,
through, you'll never get the souvenir, but you may still get your coin. So
yeah,
I've done a couple of geo tours that I haven't been able to finish.
Yeah.
And it's hanging out
Because
there,
of that?
1 or 2 finds. And like, I can say, hey, it was great. I enjoyed the geo tour. However, I need to drive, that 6 hours back to go back and find 2 caches. Well,
next time I'm in the area, right?
Exactly. Next time I'm in the area.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, there's that, and I feel bad for the people that are wanting to on our challenges get them all, and yet I have this one that's been disabled all this time, and
Yeah.
sorry if you're listening. I'm sorry.
No.
and they are.
They are, yes.
Now, you may have noticed I missed a little bit in the beginning.
Okay.
Did you talk about your Spokane challenge?
No, not really. No.
Since we're talking about challenges and geo tours, tell us a little bit about the. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the name. Is it the SPO challenge?
Spocash.
Spocash.
That's it,
Yeah. So this spring we decided to rename ourselves. Because we started out doing geo tours and then we did geo challenges, and every year it's a new theme. But we wanted to just wrap it all into Spocash. And so Spocash will every year come out with a new GeoCoin challenge. So our current challenge is the Trains and Railroads, Spokane Trains and Railroads, the Star Challenge.
Oh, I like that coin.
I know a couple of people who are going to get that one.
Oh, I need to book a ticket now. Even though I have no time, I need to book the ticket. I like that.
Yeah, it's doable in about 6 hours, actually.
See, Daryl, that's easy to do. You can get there. You can sleep on the plane there, have a long layover, get the caches, come right back. You can
but I need to rent the car.
Well, yeah.
You can borrow ours.
That's
we'll help you. If you come this far, I'll meet you in Spokane.
Okay.
Awesome, guys. Yeah. So that's our current challenge.
And that challenge has been well received. The reaction is a lot like Daryl. We had people plan their vacation when that launched because they're enthusiasts.
Yeah, train enthusiasts.
And then they could reach it.
Yeah.
And they just loved it due to not us, but our subject matter expert we had on the team. It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a local cashier. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt, but one of the things about that particular challenge and series is you had multiple paths. I'm trying to not to use a word.
Lines.
I know that ended up being lines. There were colored lines, or was it red?
Hat here.
There you go.
Yep.
And
they were different lines.
I thought that was absolutely genius.
So yeah, here's the passport. I don't know if that's going to focus, but there's different lines. They don't represent anything historical, but just the series of caches for that line. And it looks like one of the old railroad maps our subject matter expert brought.
Yeah, that was genius. I thought that was very well done.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, it came out really well. After we've looked on a bigger map where all of our pre-hidden caches were, like we were talking about earlier, we'd already set up cache pages, but they hadn't published, obviously. They kind of fell into these areas, and then arranging everybody's adventure and the passport around these different lines so they could track their progress and, progress down a cash line and towards earning their coin and seeing what we wanted them to see. It was really about bringing them to certain areas that had all the different train history. And gosh, like 99.9% of people that came in and gave us their passport to earn their coin, they said, we saw trains all day. Everywhere we went, we were seeing trains. And luckily they weren't stopped by them too much, which we actually planned for. We tried to keep it out of range of where they have to cross too many train tracks, but be, alongside where trains would be.
So then bringing it back to the topic of the show, it was particularly challenging to, us, and I think any group either putting on a geo tour or a challenge, you have a central account that is going to publish these out. So not everybody on your team knows when something has been marked needs maintenance or something does need maintenance. So you have to have this quarterback saying, oh, this need maintenance came in because it's missing, and it's this person is the one responsible. And then I got to forward the message on to them, or do it ourselves. I'm going to be in the area. I'm going to catch it. And especially during the first month and a half of a launch, I think those teams experience that. Then as it trails off a little bit, there isn't this mad rush to this guy is disabled or needs to be looked at. You stat, go look at it. And so these types of events do have that extra challenge in maintaining those caches.
Yeah, making sure they're good to go and not have been muggled and log papers and such. Absolutely.
Well, that brings up a point that just now rattled around in my head. Is it something that you've done with these caches with the multiple hiders, a series with the multiple hiders, that you might have set up a filter for their particular cache gets forwarded to their mail account through Gmail or whatever? That seems like something that might entice hiders, and for anyone looking to do the series, which we've talked with you about before, might make them a little bit more motivated to get involved with a program like that to begin with.
Yeah. No, we haven't done
it's
that.
It's also probably a lot of work to set that up.
No, I'm just so busy thinking about my algorithms that I didn't look at the obvious.
Just, we hide all the caches under one account, and everybody has access to that one account. But
they don't get the notifications.
Right.
Yeah. So that is probably something that's worth looking at for anyone who's actually going to do it. Just set up a Gmail account for that series, right? Or for the for the profile, and set up the forwards.
Yeah,
which is not an easy process for Gmail, unfortunately. But then just with the filtering, you set it up by the cache code to anything with this gets forwarded to this address.
Right. Well, that's a really good idea. Thank you for that. Yeah. What we have done on every cache page is a link to the profile of the actual hider. So, but who reads cache pages anymore?
Right. Well, and if you're just logging, you expect to just log your maintenance or whatever, and it goes to the appropriate person.
Right.
One aspect I did want to get to before we run out of time is I wanted to mention the fact that you can meet the most interesting people while maintaining your caches.
Okay, this sounds like a good story.
Yeah. So I had it reminds me now, spring runoff affects one of my caches. That was part of our sustainability of Spokane challenge, which was a dam, and which I cleverly named, it's time for the dam tour. And I put it on the riverbank edge, and during the summer months, the water is 30, 40 feet away. But come next month, the water is going to be 2-3 feet higher than the cache. So I got to go get it and pull it, which I did last year. And then time escaped me on that one, but I get a message from a visitor saying, I'm going to be in town. Is this one ready? I said, I'll have it ready for you. So we do this maintenance run. We go fix things. We're taking this cache back to its resting spot. And we notice that there's all sorts of activity along our riverbank that's not normally there, like a motorhome with its generator running. And, do these people know it's illegal? You can't camp here.
Yeah.
And then we go walking down the trail that's just foot traffic. And at the bottom of the trail, there's all these trucks, these big trucks. And so there's people everywhere. Mm-hmm. And, well, we keep going.
Headsets on.
We keep going. And there's this weird traffic sign that's pointing to somewhere in the Midwest. And
with bullet holes.
What's bullet holes? Now, what's this? And then I look at one of the trucks, and it's full of like bloody hands, and the truck says props. Or something. What? There's people lugging these lights around, and what the heck? And then it dawns on us that we are now part of a locally filmed show called Z Nation about zombies.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. It's our favorite show because we watch it to see where they're at.
Yeah.
And so we look at each other and say, well, what do we do? And we sort of decide, well, let's keep going till somebody stops us. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And
it's public property.
And sure enough, somebody stops us, some kid, college kid. This was a summer job, and he was so friendly.
He was.
Hey, what are you guys doing here? And so, well, I got to put this over there. And he says, oh, I don't know if you can do that. So, well, why? And so we're talking, they're filming, and okay. And we're all like, it's our favorite show. And
yeah,
and we're seeing the actors, that we see. And they are literally within 15 feet. They're filming where I need to place this cache. And we're being goofballs. And, well, do you think they'll mind, if I just sneak in there? They won't see. She's saying, can I take pictures? And no, you better.
I asked. I said no. Yeah.
So yeah, that was hilarious. And we like to tie all of our summer event, either geo tours or geo challenges together. They always tend to be 6 degrees of separation from each other.
1 degree.
1 degree. Yeah. In this case, our our second one was filmed in Spokane Geo Tour. We had mountain bike hid the Z Nation. Mm-hmm. So,
Andy.
Yeah, he was on our team that year. That was a lot of fun.
And so it's just fun when stuff like that happens because of this crazy game, and because we were doing maintenance.
Yep.
If we weren't even out,
we're practically on the set. Yeah.
So yeah, do maintenance, people. You might see a movie star.
Yeah, might be an IMDb.
Yeah.
They would have to claim you as an extra if you were caught filmed in the background there.
Yeah, I didn't
How
have
many
my
times have you DNF'd because of a movie set?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Just once.
There was I can't remember. I want to say it's a GeoCoin challenge. I don't think it was Tri-Cities, but they were filming in the area, and they decided from this point on, you're not allowed in. Well, this is a public park, in a road. And so we decided, okay, so we won't drive. We got out and we walked, we got it and came back. But it was just one of those things of like, no, you can't come any closer.
Oh, really?
I think I can.
Yeah.
That was like the year we went to Las Vegas. So it was 13. And then we go down to the Grand Canyon, and we wanted to get in the Arizona side. There was that cache, a bridge to nowhere, and there's a bridge that's out in the desert. It's not. They moved it and parked it there, and it became part of the park system that at the time was shut down because the government was shut down. So they had the water-filled barriers across the entrance.
So you couldn't.
There's enough room for you to park. And so we're like, 300 feet away from the cache.
Just across the border. We both needed that state.
So we're looking at each other. Oh man, the government has this shut down. And then we're thinking, well, wait a minute. We are the government. Let's go check if they've shut this down properly.
Yeah.
And if the government's in shutdown, who's out there to stop you?
Exactly.
Yeah, so we walked on in, got the cash, enjoyed the bridge, and walked back. Yeah.
So yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we should wrap this up due to time, but before we do, there is a pressing question that I've been asked several times, and I don't think anyone has kind of a consensus on this. What do you do when you run into a log that's full or so badly mangled that it can't be signed and you want to replace it? What do you do with that old log?
That's a good question. What I do is I keep it with me and contact the cache owner and ask them, do you want the log back? Generally, they say no. Sometimes they're just, mush. But definitely replacing the log is okay. Replacing the whole container, you really need permission from the cache owner first.
Yeah, the only one.
Agreed.
Yeah, the first one I ever ran into that. Well, it wasn't that the log was full; it was that the container was broken in pieces and laying on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And so I grabbed the log book, and then we had an event like the next day. Then the owner was there, and so I, here's your log book.
Yeah. Yeah. Just over the weekend, we had it was last weekend, a couple of ladies from Canada that came down and did our star tour. And they brought in 2 different log papers that they had collected from some of the caches and wanted to be sure that I had them and let me know that they had replaced the logs. But here are the other logs that were in the cache. Yeah.
And so if anybody finds a Kid Vegas 19 hidden cache that needs the log maintenance and you take the log, I want that log. I collect them.
Go back to the record.
Yep.
Yeah.
What I've done recently is I'll take photos. You've got your cell phone right there with you. Take a photo of the log right there in the field. Go ahead and replace it, and then contact the owner. Hey, here's the log. Of course I have it if you want it. We'll meet up some event or something, but here's the photos of it. Or the mush that I chiseled out of the bottom of the bison tube.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If it's something you really don't want to carry with you, a photo's probably
best. I always take photos of, did you mean to hide it here? Because it's not here. And take a picture of a empty space and send it to them.
Yeah.
But I never thought about taking a picture of the broken logbook.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. I've started doing that, especially now with the messenger, because it makes it that much more available. Because you have people who didn't want to list their email sites or email addresses on the website, which I totally understand and support. But if you didn't have that previously, you can send them the photos. So now you can send them photo. I'll take the photos. If it is like just mush and there's nothing that you're going to get out of it, I'll usually just dump that in a local trash can after I take the photos. Yeah. But if it's not, I do actually try to dry it out. If it's something that you can do that.
You can put those wet logs into a centrifuge, spin the water out of it, and then be able to reconstitute the paper. It takes a little effort, no more than 6 or 8 hours.
Well, you hear all the stories of the people who have taken those just wet, mushy logs, dropped them on their engine block, and dried them out that way.
Yeah. Dry them out. Yeah. Lay them in the sun for a minute. Now's a good time for a picnic in the sunshine. Let's dry out this log and have our sandwich before we move on to the next cache. Yeah. Can we quickly put in a plug for our next coin challenge? Do you guys mind?
Well, before we do that, we have one comment from the from Bounce in the chat who wants to know if your store is open on the weekends.
We are open by appointment only.
Which means it could be open on the weekends.
Sure, you bet. Yeah. So right on our website, you can actually make an appointment online at your leisure. 2:00 in the morning. Not that I'm going to meet you at 2:00 in the morning. There's set hours that I will come.
That's when she sends me.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Go ahead and make an appointment, and absolutely, we'll be here.
Huh. Interesting.
You can do the plug for the.
Can we ask Bounce a question?
Yeah.
Does he have anything new for the maker events?
I believe he did a creation event.
creation event. Yeah, Maker was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Chad starts at says he usually starts at 3 a.m.
Oh,
Wow. Okay.
So if he leaves his house at 3 a.m., it'll be fine. It'll be during business hours for you.
Yeah, that sounds
Exactly.
perfect. Yeah.
Which is, of course, is 5 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
No.
No. I think I have it set up from 11 to 4 are the hours that are available. Although if somebody's blowing through town, and I know this happens, especially
Yep.
when they're, traveling on the way to headquarters or something, and they're going to be in Spokane at 8 a.m. in the morning, I'm happy to meet them if I can, but they'll need to make special arrangements for that. Because we live really close, so it just takes me 11 minutes to get from home to the cash cave. And I'm often here anyway, so I'm happy to meet cashers.
All right, so now let's get to the plug.
Oh, okay. You got that.
well,
Prop.
this is a prop. So it's not going to make any sense. You can see it. What we have the Fun GeoCoin Challenge this year. Fun is an acronym for fantastical, unbelievable nonsense in Spokane. Okay. And so, why it says game show on there is we've had a series. We have had one, but we have a series of game shows that we're throwing as events for the sole purpose of playing a commercial about the Fun GeoCoin Challenge. So that's going to launch July 5th.
Yeah, the weekend after July 4th. So every year that's our plan is the weekend after July 4th or the 4th of July or Canada Day, which is a few days before for our Canadian friends just north of us. We're planning a geo poker run Friday evening with a meet and greet.
It might be a Geo Scrabble run too. We're not sure.
Yeah, it's a geo game of some sort. Yeah. And then Saturday we'll have our launch, our kickoff at Sky Prairie Park at 9:00 in the morning. And then all the caches will publish at 9:30. And then folks will be scattering about to find the caches.
So Chad will let you do the math of when you need to leave to get there at 9 on Saturday.
Or come early. Come for the Friday night event too.
There you go. That way you won't be late.
Yeah.
So that's what we have going for this year. Currently, like we mentioned before, the Spokane Trains and Railroads is still going.
Yep. We have coins.
We have coins. We had a second. What are they called?
Minting?
Well, no, but the backers, the person.
Oh, sponsor.
Sponsor. That's the word.
We had a new sponsor
We
step
had a
up.
sponsor that actually bought some more coins for people.
Yeah.
So it kept the challenge going that much longer.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'd be out by now.
We'd be out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah.
That's a good commentary of how well your events are run and managed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
you. Yeah. We'll have more information about her sponsorship, but it's not ready to announce yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then for anybody out there, if you're looking for some fun event and your group can do it, this past Sunday, we just held our newlywed game show.
Yeah.
And we had 3 couples. One couple was married 7 months. One couple was married 8 months. And the last couple was married 447 months. And this was hilarious. It turned out excellent. If I recommend any group out there do this. It was fun.
Yeah. If you have some newlywed cashers, we had a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I need to get some more details on that because that's something I think we can do.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. We're happy to share. And then our next event coming up
at the end of the month, the 27th is our what we're calling Jeopardy, which is spelled with a G.
GEO Jeopardy.
Yeah. And that one will be the event participants. We're going to have real contestants and the game show, but the experience is going to be as if you are in the studio audience and there's people running around and action and and no, you can't say that. The sensors won't, things like
All
that.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that will be fun.
Yeah. So we're having a lot of fun with this particular challenge. We worked so hard the last 4 years with being historically correct and information about trains and sustainability and ecology and history.
And here's where Chuck Norris was standing. When
that. So this is just complete nonsense. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we can hide anything anywhere.
Yep. Yeah. And make up any story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must be very freeing for you.
It is. It is. Well, thank you for letting us do that.
And thank you so much for hosting these great events and for joining us on the show and hosting the great Geo Tours.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And before we let you go, Bounce says he may need to bring the donut box to the July event. I'm not sure what that means, but being Bounce, it's going to be exciting.
Donuts in it.
Yeah. Ooh, donuts.
And Bounce, we'd love to chat with you about maybe something we could include.
They're probably discoverable, those donuts.
Donuts? Oh. It's just donuts. They'll last forever. No, I'm sure it's something much better. Cool. I'm excited to find out.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you guys. You not only put on great events, you're good people, and you have that wonderful cash cave.
Thank you. Yeah, come visit us here. We've really expanded the new cave that we just moved into last month. So it's very comfortable here.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. Now, folks, if you're listening, next week we're going to be talking about geocaching.com insights with HQ. Yeah, that's not something you're going to want to miss. But until then, make sure you check out the Cacheamaniacs website at cacheamaniacs.com for more on the Geo Gearheads, including show notes for this and all our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cacheamaniacs.com or through the many channels of social media. Don't forget that your support helps to keep the Cacheamaniacs shows coming. Please Daryl, I caught that from you. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cacheamaniacs shows. Geo Gearheads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. The show's copyright 2019 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cacheamaniacs.